Yeah! It's your boy Gabriel Hodder. Matthew Oman. We are all fight, no flight, primal fear. And you're watching BJ and DG Talk Wrestling. Yeah!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. DJ here from DJ Drinks Beer, and I'm having technical difficulties.
And here, in Lego form for the time being, is DG Danger Ginger. How's everybody doing on this lovely day? Hopefully, you're not outside in the freezing cold. As we have some technical difficulties here. But hopefully everybody's good. And yeah. So a lot of interesting stuff this week in wrestling. Starting with Raw. We had plenty of people declare for the Royal Rumble. Just in the first segment alone, with CM Punk and Rollins. You're still muted, by the way.
All right.
And I should probably take down Lego Me. But yeah, what did you think of the opening segment with CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and then eventually Drew McIntyre?
And the three of them need to just be thrown in a cage together. The animosity between Punk and Rollins has just been amazing. And then you throw Drew in there, it's just because you need a heel in there because Rollins and Punk are both kind of tweeners at this point.
Yeah.
You know, and just that dynamic works so well.
It seems like CM Punk brings the best out of whoever he's working with.
Yeah, because everybody hates him.
I wouldn't go as far as say because everybody hates him. I think there's a mutual respect there between him and Seth, and whatever issues they had, they probably, got over, or at least agreed to work with each other.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that was said between these two are just still taking shots at each other, to the point that Punk's out there talking about his match from the debut on Netflix. Seth's music hits, and you catch him at the back of the ring looking at the announce table like, why couldn't it have been Rhea? That brought out a good laugh from me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rollins saying it was the worst loss of his career, and now we got both them declaring for the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. Rumble, man, it's shaping up to be an amazing match. The names, what do we got? 7 so far? And no, we got more than that. That's 7 after Raw.
Let's see. We had Punk and Rollins in the opening segment, and then Drew coming out saying that Seth isn't no real leader because this whole thing revolving with Roman still. That everybody's mad that Roman's back. Like, whatever, get over it. There's 2 titles again. I doubt we'll ever see a stranglehold on one person holding both, unless it's for a very good reason.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to have a better reason, or, as good a reason as Roman.
No. So, yeah, we have Drew coming out saying all that, and he says because they declared for the Royal Rumble, now he's declaring for the Royal Rumble because it's all about stopping Roman. Because if they win the Rumble, Roman doesn't get a title shot.
So, Cena, Rollins, Punk, McIntyre. I mean, that sounds like a Final Four right there.
Yeah, and then we had Rey Mysterio on SmackDown declare. We had Paul Heyman come out and declare Roman Reigns. Which is going to be the first time, I think, in 5 years Roman's going to be in the Royal Rumble. Like, we already have, like, this like 6-7 names, and it's already like, wow, this is I get the idea that the Royal Rumble is always kind of like an all-star event because you have all these names, but literally the first handful of people declaring are all former world heavyweight WWE champions or both between the time frame. Not necessarily this new incarnation of the world title, but
Right.
All Things Wrestling Podcast. How you doing?
Oh, hello.
But yeah, it's definitely shaping up to be something.
Oh, yeah.
It's
The Rumble match is like what I watch wrestling for. That's my Super Bowl every year. Like people love Mania. I love the Rumble.
Mine was always the King of the Ring, a one-night tournament.
Okay.
You saw these guys go out there 2-3 times, and that usually gave you an idea of who was going to be next in line to get that main event push.
The Rumble was great because you never knew when that counter hit. When the buzzer went off and the zeros hit, you never knew who was coming out. You never knew if it was a women's Rumble, if it was going to be a man in drag. You never knew if it was going to be a celebrity, a return, a legend. You don't know what's coming. And it's been a little tame in the last year or two. And I don't think this one's going to have a ton of surprises, but it's always that anticipation. And even if it's not a surprise, even if it's someone who's declared and we're only halfway through the match, you still get that pop. You know what I mean?
This year, the last 2 years, was kind of a foregone conclusion Cody would win.
Yeah.
And even in the past couple of years before that, we could kind of look at it and say, all right, this guy's obviously the favorite to win. Insert random guy here, whether it was 7-8 years ago when they did the first women's Rumble in Philly. I felt Nakamura was the number one pick. That was my number one pick for that Rumble. I'm like, he's just been red hot, and him and AJ Styles' possible matchup was going to be amazing to see that.
And it was until it wasn't.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story altogether for another time.
It was a feud based on nut shots.
Yeah. That was after the match, not during.
No, a couple of them ended in DQ. I think the first one ended in DQ.
No, their match had a conclusion, and then there was the heel turn when they did it at WrestleMania. And then it went to the rematch afterwards.
You're right. Yeah.
But yeah, usually by now, I could sit there and give you a general idea and be 98% sure that that person's going to win. There's so many people who, whether they're winning or not, are hot right now. Whether it's Seth Rollins and the loss to Punk, and I think we're going to start seeing a Rollins character change.
To what?
I think we're going to get a more serious Rollins, not this one coming out all happy, dancing, Joker-esque almost.
They should do like Joker Rollins.
It's just the idea of like the outfits, stuff like that. I think it's time for it. It's had its time. It's entertaining. Let's not get that wrong by any means, but I think it's time for Rollins to move on to something being a bit more serious, because that seems to be the tone of everything now going on.
Yeah, true.
Especially with WrestleMania season now in full effect.
True, yeah.
And then, so how did you feel about Penta and Chad Gable this week with Penta's debut?
Seeing Penta in a WWE ring was just amazing. Seeing his family in the front row and everything, it was just it was great. And unfortunately, he got some backstage heat for going a little long in his match. But it's his debut. You know what I mean? Like, let him shine for a little bit. Like, if it's something that continues to happen, that's a different story. But
that's the rumor. If that's true, I think it might have been more for the promo itself, because he said that he said the promo in English, then he said it in Spanish, which is fine. You're no longer on network TV no more. I think it would be more of, hey, let's try to stick more to our times, just because we do have an idea of stuff, but they're not fully, because like they said before, everything went to Netflix. Like, hey, Raw could be 45 minutes. Raw could be 3 hours. Not to say Raw will ever be a 45-minute program,
Right.
but just that general idea of, hey, we're not stuck to it. But yeah,
Oh,
Penta
great.
and Gable,
Amazing match.
yeah, especially the with how Pat coined it, the Mexican Destroyer, and how Gable was just completely vertical. Like, these guys really put on a great match. Chad Gable can work with anybody, and he's used properly, but not given that opportunity to really be there. Like, I really felt like he should have, like, how much I love Sami Zayn being the one to end Gunter's reign. It should have been Gable.
I agree with Heel Mark and Thrash Gecko there. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all
And
statements.
apparently Ray Phoenix was even front row for his debut. I saw a couple people who said they caught a quick glimpse of him.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I would expect it, and because apparently he was wearing his mask as well. I mean, it's a really cool moment to have, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just all the way around. I think Penta's going to do great in WWE. I just hope he doesn't get pushed into this whole LWO thing, because that's really gone nowheres. And those are all talented people within that group. Zelina, why can I not think of their names? The guys that used to be with Santos that are in the LWO.
And Joaquin Wild.
Yeah. Like, they're a very talented tag team, you know. And I know they've been dealing with injuries recently and stuff.
Wild, like, if you watch TNA like 10 years ago, like, you know all about DJZ, Zima Ion. He was for X Division champion, man. He was amazing. He could do the things he could do. I mean, all of those guys back in the X Division were. But man, he was I used to love watching him. And now I know he's got the ability. It's funny that he's in the LWO because he's Filipino.
Hey, Kofi used to be Jamaican.
Yeah, no, agreed, Heel Mark. Yeah, I do not want to see that. I'd like to see him stand on his own. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, you know, what I really hope is after, like, maybe after WrestleMania and stuff like that, maybe we get a heel Penta at some point down the line. Because anybody who's watched Lucha Underground, heel Penta is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
And I really loved the promo after the match as well. Like, whether I could understand what he was saying or not when he was speaking Spanish, the one thing that I did understand was the emotion of the moment to him.
Oh, yeah.
And that gets over more than anything. It's them showing his daughter practically the entire time at ringside crying because she was so happy to see him there.
Anybody who had seen TNA 10 years ago has no idea what that was or why I did it. So DJZ was part of a faction with Robert Stone, the guy who's currently Robert Stone, and a guy named Jesse Goddard, and they
Robbie
were like,
E.
Yeah, Robbie E. and Jesse Goddard, and they were like beach pretty boys. You know what I mean? And DJZ was their like personal.
It was their Jersey Shore gimmick.
Yeah, exactly. So he would always like he would mouth the air horn noise.
Yeah, I remember. Unfortunately, I remember. Not that he's not talented by any means, you know.
I used to love it. They were so obnoxious.
But yeah, we also this week had a little bit of dissension within the Judgment Day backstage. It looks like Judgment Day is either winding down or we're going to see something completely new out of what's left of that faction. Because, wow, like, you take away Priest and Rhea from that equation, that group fell apart.
Oh yeah, it's just a mess without them. They were the heart.
And that's by design of the story.
No, of course, yeah. Although Balor and JD, I could see them being a dominant tag team. You know what I mean? Dom, he can do whatever. He's got options. Carlito, he won't be around too much longer, I don't think. You know?
I've seen online, speaking of
Right.
Dom, people clamoring for like a Dom and Penta match or feud, which I think would be really fun.
Oh, that would be sick. Yeah.
But now I'm just waiting for the TK over in AEW. Just release these guys if you're not these talents you're not going to use. And because Ray Phoenix really should have been with Penta for on screen for that debut.
Yeah, but he's locked up.
It's just a shame that at least when Vince was in charge, he wasn't going to let these top names sit in the back. At least he was going to have them go out and put over the next wave of talent that's taking that spot. Like they're just not being used. And
Yeah.
it's a waste of money.
Oh yeah, yeah. But just imagine now, like how dope Ray Phoenix's eventual debut will be. You know,
100%. I mean, I also feel the same way about Ricky Starks not being used in AEW.
oh
Like,
yeah.
like he has so much charisma. He really like his presentation reminds me a lot of when The Rock became The Rock from the Rocky Maivia gimmick. The fancy shirts, you know, the way he talks, it reminds me a lot of that. Like,
Yeah.
how do you have these talents and you're just not using them? Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, I miss the older days of AEW where we were seeing talents featured like every other week. You know, like, hey, we got vignettes for the ones we saw the week before. Now you're going to see these guys wrestle. You know.
Is that what's the 22nd? What is it?
Oh, the 22nd is the Squared Circle Society debut podcasting that I will be doing with the heel mark.
Oh, great. Oh, awesome.
Yes, there will be more information coming about that show in the future. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see where everything goes with Dom, Liv, and Raquel at the moment. As same thing with the other side of the Judgment Day, because there is a definite split.
Yeah.
And it's all on Finn. Finn, how much I say we're there's no leader. Finn is trying to fill that void that was left behind by Rhea and Damian. And his hard feelings toward Damian has been the downfall of this group. Liv's revenge tour with Rhea, another downfall of the group.
Right.
Like, just never able to actually move on. Yeah, and then, you know, after that, we get Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser on Raw. And boy, these guys, whether it's Braun Breaker or any combination of these three guys at the moment, they're beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah. Yeah. These guys, it's always going to be like these guys just pummel each other. Like Sheamus, you know what you're getting with him. And Kaiser, the more I see him, the more I'm like starting to really like his ability. And I'd love to see him get a little bit of a push. I don't think he's at this point like mid-card champion material, but I'd like to see him, you know.
I don't think he's far off.
No.
He's definitely not far off from it. You know, like he has all the tools.
Oh yeah.
I would say he even has the tools to bump up eventually into like a world title picture on Raw. If that was just to be the main title on that show, you know, permanently, just like the WWE titles on SmackDown, that Ludwig Stratton.
So let me paint a picture for you. A year from now, next WrestleMania, heel Gunther versus face Kaiser for the world title. You could see this happening.
I can see the match happening, but I think Gunther would be the face and Kaiser would be the heel.
Oh yeah, I kind of like put that in myself.
I agree. I can see the match. That's just where, if it's me, because the crowd is already popping for him. It's only a matter of time before everywhere he is.
In a year time, I could definitely see like so. Kaiser is full face. Gunter, they like reunite, or they're still together and everything, but like you know, they do that because they're like doing solo stuff. They where was I? They do their thing, they reunite, and Kaiser turns on Gunter. I could see, even there's time for him to be a face and get that like build, and then
Yeah,
like
if Kaiser was to be the one to, so that would all depend who turns on who, right? Does Kaiser just turn on Gunter and say, I want a shot at the title? I feel like you see me out here. I've been helping you. You haven't been helping me. I could be a champion right now if you were helping me, right? Or does Gunter, because he keeps failing, turn? That's what determines that heel face dynamic, is who turns on who.
okay, bold prediction there.
You know what? It's not as bold as somebody who would have picked Otis for the COVID Money in the Bank.
You almost made me lose that sip. Yeah, no, you're right.
I hate that. That should have been AJ Styles' briefcase. That was horribly booked. And then you just took the briefcase off of him and handed it to The Miz anyway.
Right.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Where were we?
But yeah, Sheamus and Kaiser, hell of a match. And then after the match, Sheamus is celebrating with Pat McAfee, which I don't care what anybody says. I love his energy on commentary.
Oh yeah.
I love everything about it. I love how everybody has put him over, especially Michael Cole, as saying he's relit a flame under me that I legitimately lost and was going through the motions calling shows. And to the point that Michael Cole was on the announce table this week yeeting. Like, Michael Cole never does stuff like that. Like, that says something of how infectious that energy actually is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I haven't really heard. No one really knows for sure what's going on so far.
Let me finish my thought there, and I will talk about that. And then after the match, Braun Breaker appears in the front row and pushes Sheamus, and we kind of get a moment with them that sets up those two having a match for the Intercontinental title at Saturday night's main event next week.
Yeah. Oh, that's next week already?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the week after that's the Royal Rumble. February 1st. Yeah.
Well,
we have a big week of wrestling stuff coming up the next couple of weeks, especially with SPO holding their next show.
Oh, yeah.
At Harris in Chester. So some big matches there. Also, the nice big meet and greet going.
Willie Mack, former juggler or former TNA and Lucha Underground superstar, now in JCW champion, taking on our champion, the Feral Face.
It's going to be a fun match to watch.
Oh yeah, among others. That card is stacked. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Corey Graves.
And then we get a little bit of backstage stuff with Sami Zayn and Seth as well, which was pretty interesting. I really is it me or does it really seem like they're building up towards like a KO Drew McIntyre Seth Rollins stable?
Yeah, but I could even see Punk being involved with that in some way at some point.
Well, I see Punk being involved storyline wise, but not as a part of the group.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
Like, it would take, because you would have to think about it, after his feud with Drew and his current ongoing feud with Seth. I'll say at the moment, there's a lot of bad blood there, storyline wise, that would have to be resolved at some point. And I don't see all three of them meshing together really well in the long run. But unless we're talking about them doing an NWO-esque stable.
No, more along the lines of like a, sadly enough, what's like Death Riders, like, kind of doing that whole thing. I could see it working in that way, but them like not getting along at all. Like they're all like, they all have hatred for each other, but they're like together fighting, I don't know. I could see that work.
It's just really hard for me to see right now those three as a stable together to where I feel like KO would fit it better, because there seems to be this thread going that Seth has been pulled into since the work up the War Games being Roman. Because let's just say, for example, what happens if Roman Reigns wins the Royal Rumble? Do we get him in Cody 3?
No, maybe. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So now there would become a whole storyline of, look, us three have been telling you this was going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't
think he's good.
I don't want Cody Roman 3 now. I want us to give it some time to work back up to it.
Yeah.
Because a third year in a row, you can never really go back to that match again in any way, shape, or form. It makes it really hard to work because, last year, it shouldn't have been Cody. It should have been Rock Roman last year and then Cody Roman this year. Because I would have been perfectly happy with sitting through another year of people complaining on the internet about Roman being champ, to be honest.
I would have loved every second of it.
Yeah.
I hate face Cody champion.
But as where was it? Thrash said in the chat asking, aren't Seth and Drew fighting this upcoming week? Yes, it was announced that Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins will have a match this Monday night on Raw. Which doesn't really mean anything in the long run, because I think it's a slow boil to get to the team up together if Seth agrees to join. So I could see Drew and KO being together. And it's just, if Punk was to be that third member, I would need to see something on screen of Drew and Punk agreeing to work together, because it seems like Drew wants nothing to do with Punk being anywhere near the top. Same thing with Seth.
There will be, in this case, I can see a situation where, like, Sami Zayn is taking on Drew, or, and then Punk comes out to attack Zayn for some reason, or vice versa. Punk versus Zayn, and Drew comes out to attack Zayn,
there we go.
They band together. All it takes is a week.
I know, but just like the story build up to get there, I would think that if something like that's going to happen, we'll start seeing the true watering of the seeds in the Royal Rumble match.
Yeah.
Because do they all team up to get it down to them three? And that's if KO enters the Rumble if he loses the ladder match.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally forgetting the Rumbles. They could have the heel agreement thing,
Yeah. So, Seth also said stuff about Sami Zayn during his opening thing, and Sami Zayn approached him about that, because it seems like now even KO's acknowledged about Sami Zayn helping Roman,
Right.
I can see definitely something coming from that. Like, because what I picture is all these guys coming together and the sole purpose of stopping Roman and probably Punk. Because whatever their agreement is, or his deal with Heyman, we're going to need to find out soon at this point. As I don't see that being waiting until WrestleMania. I have a feeling that's going to have something to do with WrestleMania. And it could be something.
Get the ice cream bars back.
If he uses Paul Heyman to bring the ice cream bars back. But yeah, and I bring up Sami Zayn because we have a little moment with Karrion Kross coming out of Pierce's office in the show with him talking to Miz, essentially saying he got lucky because the Wyatts got moved over to SmackDown. Sami Zayn comes walking up. We get a bit of some trash talking moment, with Sami and Miz, which sets up Sami Zayn versus the Miz for later in the show. And boy, I was going to wait to talk about this a little bit, but I want to talk about it now because anybody that knows me as a wrestling fan, anytime I see a blue Thunder Bomb, the match never ends on it. And I'm just like, it's a high impact move. It should be a finisher. It never is. And what does Sami Zayn win with this week? A blue Thunder Bomb. Now, when I say that practically brought me out my seat in shock, it did.
Yeah, you never see it. Well, he already used up his finisher, and he had another signature that built up, so he just used that. It's like 2K, you know what I mean? Yeah, fine. Every once in a while, you got to finish him with a signature.
Like my jaw just dropped. Like, wait, what? Now, by the way, that Sami Zayn Miz match was not a bad match by any means. It was a good, solid match for its spot on the card.
Well, I mean, and the workers, like Miz, that's what he is, solid mid card worker. And Zayn, like he's just explosive, man. He has great matches.
I mean, I think the Miz is so underbooked and has been for like the past 10 years. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, in my eyes, Miz should be a 6-7 time world champion with his body of work that he's done. But even with those Intercontinental Championship reigns, like, no matter what, the Miz is always on TV. Like, and whatever he does, it works. He figures out how to make it work. And ever since his ECW days,
talk show,
excuse me. Well, and now let's talk about the setup for a match for Saturday Night Main Event, where we pretty much get a Gunther promo, Jey Uso getting involved, and their interaction, talking about everything they've been through, and Jey will be facing Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship at Saturday night's Main Event. And Gunther really covered a lot of stuff in this. Like, hey, you tried to beat me for the Intercontinental title twice. You didn't do it. You didn't get the job done, That Jay's out there more about having fun and stuff like that and saying his catchphrase. He needs to stay where he belongs and not in the main event picture.
I kind of agree. Yeah, I kind of agree with all of that.
I mean, I think that Gunther definitely Thrash. I agree. He definitely cooked Jey in that, but there's nothing to say that I think Jey deserves to be in that spot. Like, that's a big spot for him. Like, could I see a world where, let's say, for example, Roman Reigns is WWE champion again and Jey Uso's the World Heavyweight Champion? Yes. Because it's not the World Heavyweight Championship has always, if you go, especially with the back in the day booking of it, right? Look at some of the guys that held that World Heavyweight Championship, the Rey Mysterios, the CM Punks, the smaller guys. That was their championship. And it's still considered a top title. So Jey Uso having that championship to capitalize on that momentum, eventually, yes. But do I see him beating Gunther? Probably not.
No. I don't know. I just feel like, yeah, people would pop for it, but like Jey Uso doesn't really put on the best matches. You know what I mean? Like, I can't see him really being champion at this point.
Hey, that's a good point. Like, imagine that. Like, what in a world where, let's say, Jey Uso wins the title the week before the Royal Rumble, Roman goes on to win the Royal Rumble, and we get Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship. Like, I mean, it might not interest you, but I think the majority of people it would catch, because now you're tearing the fans apart. Like, wow, hold on, we were just cheering for you guys to be back together, and now we have this.
Like, I'm not interested because I'd be more interested in what's going on around it, and not invested in the match itself, because I know it would just be like, oh, well, this is just going to be a bunch of people running in, maybe a heel turn, a face turn,
I mean, I think a match between them at this point, if this was 2 years ago, yes. Now, I think it would be a straight up one-on-one match. But as of right now, do I see Jey
the heel
Uso?
faction comes and interferes,
No, but I mean, as of right now, do I see Jey Uso winning the championship one-on-one with Gunther? No. Because you're going to send Gunther to WrestleMania most likely with that championship. I lean more towards Cody. There's a chance Cody doesn't make it a year. If I'm looking at it realistically, there's a good chance Cody either drops the title at the Rumble or loses it in the Elimination Chamber.
Right.
And some type of shocker that would probably lead to somehow Roman either getting a title shot or eventually down the road getting the belt back. Because that's his story now. He got one thing back. Now it's time to get the other back.
Right.
He's on a kind of a redemption arc. Jey Uso's on an arc where he's trying to prove himself. Is KO right, though? Like, I'm really starting to question this more and more.
That's right.
You mean his story of being the son of a electrician or whatever his shirt said?
Security technician, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I would love to see it happen, but I don't think he's the guy.
Like I said, I think that if we're talking after we get past WrestleMania, I would revisit Jey Uso being in the main event scene a little bit more because he's proved he can handle that pressure. Who's KO wrestling at Saturday night's main event? KO Cody happens at the Rumble.
Right.
But if he just appears, then you can him just appearing is a win. Okay, I'll allow it. But yeah, I'm excited for the match because if it's anything, Jey Uso does put on exciting matches. Like the crowd's behind him, which is half of the goal of getting to the top of the card. Jey Uso isn't. We're not talking about somebody coming up from NXT and randomly winning the championship like Paige.
Right.
Who was ready? Who was ready for that moment? Let's not get it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Nope. KO and Cody is at the Royal Rumble in their ladder match. Oh, boy. We're going to see 2 ladder matches in 1 week, man.
That's right. This one's for the key to the city, though.
Yeah. You know what? How much I want to say KO could win at the Rumble, my problem becomes I think KO has like a horrible record in one-on-one matches. Because what is this, like the 3rd or 4th year in a row now he's gotten a WWE championship match at the Rumble pay-per-view? Because he had 2 with Roman, right? Last year and the year before, or 2 years ago?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Because the one with the handcuff spot in the last man standing where they couldn't unlock it quick enough.
Right.
And then last year we had the whole him being chained to the ropes. You know what? That's a potential match at WrestleMania.
Oh, yeah.
That's a legit potential. Roxanne versus Bayley.
Call her up, at the Rumble, have them battled out in the Rumble match. And then,
All right.
Yeah.
So now, speaking of the women, we had the finals for the Women's Intercontinental Championship this week with Lyra Valkyria defeating Dakota Kai to become the first ever Women's Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah.
I love that Dakota showed respect to her after the match.
Yeah.
Like that was a good moment, you know, because this wasn't a face heel situation, you know. Two people fighting for the honor of being that first champion.
Right.
And I thought it was a really good match.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it was better than the Chelsea match and Meechin match, though. Personally. But, you know, that could also be fatigue on seeing two tournaments so close together, essentially being the same thing on separate shows. Also, I feel like the crowd wasn't as much behind them as they were at Chelsea Green as well.
Yeah, true. There's no, like, standout, like, face.
Man, I don't know if I'd say Dakota was robbed because nothing bad happened in the match necessarily. But, you know, there was a lot put on Lyra, as I said last week. Lyra Valkyria had a lot of hype being called up, and then they just put her with the party girls, as I call them, and, you know, like, she kind of went into obscurity there.
That's pretty much their unofficial name.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, that's what, like, a couple of wrestling YouTube channels call them.
All right, so I'm not the only one. I see. But yeah, you know, and I think that she worked, that they're finally starting to capitalize on something with her. I think Dakota Kai can come back around and take that title at some point.
Yeah.
I think that now over the next couple months, especially after WrestleMania, we'll see how these divisions really start looking. You know, like who's chasing what.
Right.
And that will be something to really look forward to, you know, like as it's taken this long now since the whole Sasha and Naomi debacle with the women's tag titles. Now we look at that women's tag team division, it's pretty stacked.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can actually do something with that division now across all three brands, which is how as it always should have been, one set of titles across three brands.
What was I going to say? And they did what they needed to do in having Lyra win. They elevated her. They didn't really need to elevate the title. You know what I mean? Like, the title's already what it is. But, you know what I mean? They elevated her. She really looked good in that match, and she showed that, like, you know, she deserves to be there, which is the first time I've really seen that since she's been called up.
Yeah. But it's something to see that she's finally getting it because they're going, like, if you really think about it, right? Chelsea Green, like how when we were talking about that tournament, Bayley being the veteran and that all that stuff. Like Chelsea Green's also a veteran, which, you know, doesn't get brought up too much in that situation. But she was never a champion, a singles champion.
Right. In the eyes of the WWE universe, she's pretty new. You know what I mean? Like, I know she's around forever, but the typical WWE fan who doesn't watch anything else, like, they have no idea who she is until about a year ago.
Well, I would say more because it was more than a year ago because she did get called up from NXT, broke her hand, I believe, and then got released shortly after that.
Yeah, that, like, people.
I think that what was that, the COVID releases or whatever at that point, like that was them just trying to save money.
Yeah.
And then quickly go over, we get a Rhea promo this week talking about her championship win, interrupted by Nia Jax, which it looks like Nia has declared for the Women's Royal Rumble. So we have that going now. We're starting to get the beginning of that picture coming together. But the real thing to talk about is how much I don't want to pass over. Oh, because we had the Bayley appearance as well during all that. Because she was at ringside during all that.
Right.
You know, how much I don't want to glance over that. Before we lose any more time, I really want to talk about the Damian Priest Finn Balor street fight. Like, that was a good main event. I really enjoyed that main event this week.
Always like a good street fight. This one delivered.
Especially the spot, the Falcon Arrow through the tables.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the one spot after that when they get through it and they have Finn on the stretcher. And Priest takes it and he unstraps him and pushes the stretcher down and it hits the ring and Balor just rolls off of it into the ring from it hitting it. I'm like, that couldn't have been much better. Like what I'm picturing in my head when he did it was just going to hit completely vertical instead of sideways. And he was just going to slide off of it into the middle of the ring. Yeah, as Thrash, there was a moment there where you kind of start thinking that Finn was actually hurt. I mean, in a street fight, it's one of the few times you get to see some of these faces show their bit of a meaner side. Like you saw it with John Cena during his run. Like he would have those, which was always the tease, right? That a fan to the fans, like, oh, we could go heel with him because he shows these moments, but we're not going to. We just want you to think he's going to. But yeah, that street fight was amazing. Like Raw, the first 2 weeks on Netflix gets a thumbs up from me.
Yeah.
Two, as
So,
a matter of fact.
you know what? I have to rate them separately because, like, the first show, we know what it was. It was just,
Yeah,
it was
it was
it
a
was for-
PLE, basically.
it was for the execs. It was, you know what I mean? It was, to make them happy and everything. But then it kind of almost like out of continuity, just like a one-off kind of. But
Yeah.
now this is a good indication of the direction we're going and how it's going to be in the future. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Not that it sucks, but like,
I mean, we knew what it was going to be. It was going to be pulling out all the stops because it was meant to be a huge show and a huge deal. You know, that's why I said it was getting that like mini WrestleMania PLE treatment because
Yeah.
it's like a season premiere. You're throwing everything out there you can. The one mistake.
I kind of consider this week's the season premiere.
I'm not shaking my head no to you.
You
You
just thought that
popped
was-
for yeah. My bad. Yeah.
I kind of say like like I said, the first one's just an out of continuity one-off kind of.
It brought a couple feuds to an end. It advanced a couple things. Like the initial show did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
The first show. The only true mistake they made, and I will continue to say this, is Hulk Hogan should have never been at that show.
That
Hulk
was one of the
Hogan,
best parts.
because this is my opinion on it. Not just the wrong city and the general purpose, but the idea of if you were to ask me, hey, when you think of Monday Night Raw, who do you think of? You know how many names I'm going to say, and not one of them will ever be Hulk Hogan?
Right. And not just that,
but
he's
now,
generally not liked now.
again, wrong city. Now, if you
It
were
has
to
nothing
wait,
to do with the city, like worldwide, he's generally not liked.
I
Or
mean,
maybe-
that's also true, but if you're going to put him in the right places to get popped, or not to get popped, but because that could have happened in LA, but to get that fan reaction pop, hey, where is Saturday night's main event this upcoming week? Oh, it's in Texas. Guess what Texas is? A huge Republican state. If everybody wants to go on the political thing, right? Which is not just politics. Hulk Hogan's just generally a piece of crap.
Right.
You know,
He's
let's
generally not liked.
call
I
that
really
what
don't
it is.
think- I really don't think the Trump thing had a lot to do with it. He's
No.
generally not liked.
No,
Like,
because Undertaker got one of the biggest pops of the night, and he had Trump on his podcast.
people booed for him when he came out with Titus.
Yeah. This has been an ongoing thing with the whole Hogan thing. Like, this is ongoing. Let's not get it wrong by any means. But if it was me, hey, look, our next Saturday night main event is in Texas. Guess what? I'm going to parade him out there because you know where most of Hulk Hogan's great WWF moments came? Saturday night's main event.
The Silver Dome.
Well, not WrestleMania moments, but those WrestleMania-esque moments came on Saturday night's main event.
Yeah.
You know, like he's more synonymous with that than he is Monday Night Raw. Now, when you talk to me about Monday nights and Hulk Hogan, I'm going to bring up Monday Nitro.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what even pre NWO, like that's where it really came. That's the Monday night show I hold him to. Like I just think it was all around just not an error, but a miscalculation of when to do it. You could have had a vignette of him, but that was probably the Netflix people like, no, we want Hulk Hogan, so give us Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I don't think it was just a matter of like that it was Raw. I think had it been SmackDown or, had it been NXT, they would have still brought him out. He's just a draw. It didn't matter the situation, or in their eyes. But hopefully they realized that like he's generally not liked anymore.
And just be pickier and choose, be a bit more picky about where you parade him out from. Because if you parade him out anywhere in the Bible Belt, I would say part of the country, picky, like, he's going to get cheered.
Picky, like keep him at home. Nobody needs to see him anymore.
Hey, look, we've had this conversation on air, off air. I am not a fan of Hulk Hogan. I will never be a fan of Hulk Hogan. I am 100% on Bobby Heenan's side about Hulk Hogan. And character anyway, and it's just a shame that from that he drank his own Kool-Aid so much that he literally just exposed himself as the POS he is, in my opinion.
Well, he doesn't realize that like we have ways of fact checking now that we didn't have back then, and like he lied a lot.
And I'll even go as far as to say like his time with holding talents down, right? Like Chris Jericho has spoken about that. Yeah, plenty of other WCW towns like, no, these guys never wanted us at the top because they wanted it for themselves. Like even Nash back then, when he was in 98 booking WCW, he booked himself to win World War III and then end the streak against Goldberg.
And that was the mistake right there. They gave them too much power.
I mean, he was the booker at the time. So
no, I know. I'm saying, like,
But yeah, like, it's just one of those things. It is a very touchy subject, It's something that a lot of fans today, and especially those like super special events, right? They get a more of our type of fan attending than just the average fan.
But right.
So you get a lot of the smarter fans there. But yeah, we should probably move on here. I want to try to touch on a little bit of NXT this week.
Oh yeah, he'll mark that bonus Bailey.
Yeah, Bailey's been on every show this week. Like she's making her rounds and her appearances. Let me tell you something. She is on the road and getting them flyer miles. But yeah, we get a whole thing with Obafemi with the show celebrating his championship win. It looks like I said before. It looks like Trick's being called up, and that the whole Eddie Thorpe thing is they're going to go with Eddie Thorpe and Oba, which, I'm all for. That should be a fun match. We also had Ridge Holland appear during that, which is going to be setting up him and Tony D'Angelo, because Tony D'Angelo came out and warned Oba, like, hey, I've beaten you before, so you better keep an eye out because eventually I'm going to come for that NXT championship.
Yeah, that D'Angelo promo was nice.
Dude, I'm a huge fan of his. I just love the gimmick. I've always enjoyed that type of stuff, because it looks like it's fun. They're having fun doing it and playing the character. Even, what's his name? The other guy who was with him before the lawyer, and he does all the videos like he's committing crimes on Instagram until he wins the end.
Yeah, who is that?
But yeah, like it's just that whole thing. It's just really fun what they've been doing. I've been really enjoying it, and it looks like that Eddie Thorpe and Oba could potentially be a strap match when it eventually happens, because he attacked him with a strap, so it looks stacks. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, that's it. Channing Lorenzo.
Dude, yeah.
I'm thinking good, right?
Like his Instagram videos of him committing crimes, and then they just did the whole thing where he got locked up for stealing Funaki's wallet, and Funaki was like, it was all because of points for like David Buster's or something. He wanted his wallet back. He didn't care about money, credit cards, or anything, just some points. We get the second women's North American Championship #1 contenders match because they acknowledged it on TV. Last week was also a #1 contenders match. You know, and in shocking fashion, Shotzi wins. You know, thanks to Fallon Henley interfering. So I have a feeling that whenever that title match happens, it could end up being triple threat.
There you go.
Oh boy, are we fighting over the ladies? I'm just saying, if we're fighting over the ladies in the NXT roster, I'm taking Nikita Lyons. That's all I'm saying.
I'll take Shotzi Blackheart.
I mean, that we have all solid choices here, okay? We have all solid choices. We had the metaphor with Legend and Jackson defeating Unholy Union for the #1 contender spot. I'm really hoping that they actually beat Naomi and Bianca. I'm kind of rooting for it because I think that whole story is going to go another way. Just because of what we saw on SmackDown this week when Bianca asked Naomi, like, hey, or Naomi says, like, hey, I just came out of Nick's office and we haven't figured out who attacked Jade yet.
Bill Mark, NXT roster.
You know, and then there was a moment where Naomi had this weird look on her face after Bianca said something. They went to the whole thing of the braid thing last week where she accidentally got whipped with the braid.
Right.
You know, like, I think there's going to be a different story going forward with that. And I'm starting to lean toward Naomi or Bianca. Possibly because it is completely possible that Bianca took out Jade before the match.
Yeah.
And having her during a match and then showing it would just be the red herring. I could see it being Naomi as well, just because after that segment, Jade tweeted something out, was like something like, really? You don't know?
Right.
Are you trying to tell us something here? Could it have been Naomi and Bianca that took her out?
And that's what I'm leaning towards.
Like, could this be like a bigger story than what we're thinking at the moment? That there's a little bit more to it. You know, kind of like the New Day, right? We speculate constantly on one of them turning heel. Not both of them simultaneously turning heel. But by the way, I've been really enjoying that stuff that's been going on with them. And I hope it leads to maybe a rebrand of the team. And we really get to see them shine as heels.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then we had Jade defeating Kalani Jordan with the TNA Women's Champion, Masha Slamovich, sitting in the crowd with a stare-off between those two.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really good match. I really enjoyed that.
Real quick, since now I have brought up TNA, what is your opinion on the new deal that has been signed between WWE and TNA with NXT's involvement?
Well, we'll know after tonight the scale of it.
We will get into a little bit more later, but just the general impression of when you saw the news break. I love
that WWE has gone from 10 years ago, not acknowledging them on television, to having a working partnership with them. It's amazing. It's great for the business.
Oh, I completely agree 100%. Overall, this is what's best for business. You know, I especially love the fact that, you know, what I love is, so when I was listening to Busted Open earlier this week, and they were talking about it, I think it was Thursday or Friday, Tommy Dreamer was on, and they asked him about it. And then they asked him about the previous deal. You know, he was like, if I look at it in this perspective, that was more like a handshake deal.
Right.
We're testing the waters. We're going to see how this works out for a while. And
And
it's
this
worked
is
out
like-
great.
Okay, it's working. Let's do it.
And I love it from the perspective of the randomness, right? And some of these talents in NXT that aren't getting ring time in front of crowds now can go over to TNA, work there a little bit, or if somebody has, hey, look, we don't want to run you through this entire roster yet, Like we're going to send you over here to get a little bit more time and polish yourself just a little bit more. Let you work with other talents that might not necessarily work this style. And then in the opposite, now TNA, just like before, is most likely going to have access to the Performance Center. They get access to them coaches. They get access to the WWE way of doing things. All that's going to do is build TNA even more. And maybe to a point now that because of that association, they can get a TV deal on a better station.
Right.
Because that's what they need.
For everyone.
Like, this just isn't a win for both companies. This is a win for pro wrestling as a whole.
Right.
Like, and they're already, I know they're not working with New Japan, but they're working with, is it All Japan or something like that?
Noah, yeah.
Noah, there we go. I believe so. But yeah, seeing stuff like this really makes you think of the possibilities going forward, right? Like, I would love to eventually see main roster talent join this pool in some form, like a one-off with AJ Styles reappearing back in AEW or TNA, right? Or imagine you're watching TNA and all of a sudden during his retirement tour, John Cena comes out.
That's funny. I don't know.
I know that there's not a lot of main roster involvement with it, which is fine, because of just the general idea. But now we look at the timing of this announcement, right? We have the Royal Rumble a couple weeks away.
Right.
And after I did some research, I found out that Joe Hendry isn't booked for the Jericho Cruise until January 3rd or February 3rd, which means he could potentially appear in the Rumble and make it to a port to get on the cruise.
Yeah, I definitely see him making an appearance.
I hope so, just because it would be an amazing pop. But yeah, I definitely do think, and we can talk more about it before we go off the air. Cora Jade, I definitely think we do see appear tonight for TNA. I can definitely see it.
I mean, the possibilities are endless, though. Like, there are so many people who could show up tonight, or Tuesday, or Thursday.
Now, that's an interesting point. Heelmark just brought up. That is a phenomenal deal for TNA. In his opinion, a better roster than AEW. I would think right now, if I'm looking at just talent-wise, the talent pool's kind of even. I think TNA does better at storytelling.
TNA's got more experience on the roster, though.
Yeah. But if I'm just looking at what compels me to watch, yes. Oh, God. That was one of the two bright spots of AEW this week. Like, I really don't have much. Like, I have notes for AEW, but outside of Kenny Omega's return, the Acclaim breaking up this past week, last night on Collision, and that MJF Jarrett promo, AEW really needs to figure out storytelling for investment because there's not much to invest in there right now. And they almost have their full roster of talent back, and which was going to bring me to my point here with this deal. A lot of people will still say AEW is the number 2 show right now, which granted they are, if you look at the landscape as a whole, they have the better network to be on that gets to more households, just like WWE. But with this deal, can this deal propel TNA to take that number 2 spot?
Not right away. Maybe in like another year or two. Because it's very far off.
Yeah. Like this is over a time thing, you know. No. MJF, I will say this, how great his promos are. He always does say the shocker thing, right? The thing that gets people to pop instantly, which is an issue just over not crapping on MJF style because that's his character. He'll say the things nobody else will say just because he's MJF and he can. But, I mean, how much I hate to say it, and I'm not a fan of anything Jarrett, really, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing where that goes. But I just don't see how MJF working with Jarrett benefits MJF or Jarrett in the matter. Like, it's not a compelling overall story. I'm compelled enough to want to see it, but I'm not compelled enough to sit there and be like, oh, this is game changing for either one of these guys. Because I know Jarrett's on his way out, and MJF has kind of started to slack now without being able to play up, oh, I'm going to be the big 2024 free agent, right? Like, all that, a lot of that momentum's gone from MJF. So he's living off the pop right now. They need to figure out.
It kind of came out of nowhere.
I mean, which is fine. You know, some stories you just dropped out, and MJF would be the guy to come out and ruin somebody's retirement angle. Let's be perfectly honest.
Yeah, he'll mark. Right now, if Raw continues the way it's been, I would put it ahead of TN. Otherwise, right there with you.
My ranking of this, if we're doing like company / shows, whatever brands, SmackDown and Raw are like 1A, so that would just be a tie. So then number 3 would be NXT, number 4 TNA, number 5 AEW. You know, and that's the AEW with 2 shows. NXT has been doing amazing work as well, and they're training the next generation of talent. When you're a developmental show and you're doing better than what's considered the number 2 brand in wrestling in AEW, there's a problem. And they need to really sit down and roadmap a bit more. Stop giving us the surprise. Don't get it wrong. I love seeing big matches on TV, but can we get build up to them? I don't like, oh, hey, at some point we're going to get Kenny Omega and Kyle Fletcher or something, right? And shouldn't that be a pay-per-view match with how they built up Fletcher and with how big Kenny Omega is just on name?
It's kind of the appeal to me, though, that like in AEW you see matchups that like why are they putting these two together? You know what I mean? Like you never know who's going to be facing each other, and I kind of like that as opposed to WWE where it's only storyline or to build storyline.
I mean, I don't mind the random matchups because it should happen. You know, like, hey, these matchups need to happen. But when we look at 2 things, like let's just say Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega have never faced each other before, right? And all of a sudden, they just have one interaction backstage. Oh, next week, it's going to be Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay for the first time ever in the world of professional wrestling, right? Why would you not save that for a pay-per-view and get pay-per-view buys?
Because there's no story behind it.
But the idea is on TV, you use the weekly TV shows basically as 2-3 hour commercials to get people to buy your pay-per-view.
So
if you're going to give me,
they do things. They like to just like kind of throw out random matches and like see what develops.
So it's the idea of, let's be honest here, call it what it is. WWE has the whole long-term thing figured out, right? We know where we're at here. We know where we want to end up here. Now, how do we get from point A to point B? What's our roadmap? What's going to happen in the middle to keep people compelled to get here? AEW, on the other hand, is doing the WCW thing, because I'll always say how big of a match Hollywood Hogan and Goldberg was at the Georgia Dome on Nitro. That should have been a pay-per-view moment. Like the idea of constantly giving out the free matches doesn't help your overall product because you don't have the chance to get that anticipation in the build. So
Yeah.
there's nothing there to it. And it's Tony Khan, which, you know what? I don't want me saying this. I don't want to see AEW go out of business. I want to see the entire wrestling world thrive as a whole. But he is, in a sense, a kid with a notebook and paper and a pencil, writing down all these fantasy bookings and matches, building a card, and he just has the capability of making it real now, week to week.
Like I said,
There's ways to get guys in the ring in tag team matches, run-ins. There's stuff to tease the match without giving the one-on-one match.
I like the idea of just the random pairings and like, hey, maybe this one will lead to a story. Maybe, somewhere down the line they'll reference it. You know what I mean? I like that. That's the difference that's what makes AEW unique. And I know people aren't a fan of the storytelling, and the storytelling could definitely use some work and everything. But I feel like that's the part that like separates it, and like that's why I keep watching. Like, what ridiculous matchup, Bobby Lashley, Mark Briscoe. Yeah, let's go.
No. That's one of those matchups that fine because you're not planning. You're using that match to build. Bobby, right? Random matches are fine, but when I'm looking at more at the top of the card, right? When you're looking at, all right, we got Revolution in March. What matches can we build that we can figure out how to get there? Maybe we do the first one off and it ends in a non-finish, right? So neither guy wins. No, typically we see these matches have finishes and we're like, so why should this continue from here? That would be a hell of an Ultimate X match.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's just the idea, and that's why I relate AEW more to New Japan style of booking and stuff than the WWE style. And I'm going to say, WWE has storylines across the board, regardless if you're at the top of the card or the bottom of the card.
Right.
AEW, on the other hand, just has to work on their stories, period. Hey, if you only want to have these major stories for your people who are champions or top storylines, fine. But you know what? Let's not make it as convoluted. Or like Mox right now. Again, the idea of the Death Riders on paper is great. But where's the story? It's just these guys every week just now have guys chasing them because they're just going around beating people up.
I'm fine with that.
But I still don't. It's hard to invest in it when they still haven't given me a why. We're just tired of people partying. Oh, cool. So you don't like to party? Who hurt you? Was it Roman? Was it Seth with a steel chair? Was it when the Shield split up? The Blackpool Combat Club turned into the Death Riders. They have the trios titles. When's the last time we've seen those championships even brought out on Pac, Wheeler, or Claudio? They don't even come out with the belts. Like, it's just really one of those weird things. And it's just like, hey, you got this group together of ass kickers, but yet you're not really giving us a reason why they're not showing the world title. Why they're not doing this. Why they aren't really giving a reason, Like, the faces have all the reason in the world to win this feud. Because they're not the a-holes in the situation. And that's a good part. It's a lot like Retribution. Like, there was never a real reason given to why they're doing what they're doing. It's kind of like
has that problem because there are over 190 people on their roster.
Oh, what, AEW?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of that's also split between two brands, the AEW brand and the Ring of Honor brand.
Good.
It's just one of those things. But to get back to finish covering some of NXT this week, we had some setup for the following week where we have a Thorpe Femi NXT Championship match. We get a men's North American Championship match with Tony D'Angelo and Ridge Holland, which could be very interesting. Title could switch hands. Ridge Holland has been kind of on that lately. We had Fraxium retain their tag team titles against OTM. And then we have Roxanne in the ring to close the show, talking about what it meant to her to be champion. And she puts over the whole division, but now the division is going to be in bad shape because she's not the champion. You know, that all this crap she was talking brought out randomly Bailey, of all people, to come out. And after Roxanne had just mentioned the 4 horsewomen. And boy, that, you know, Roxanne says she used to look up to Bailey, but not anymore. She doesn't need the advice anymore. And they start to fight as that show goes off the air. Is there a possibility of that we see at some point, as Heel Mark said earlier, maybe even at WrestleMania, Roxanne Perez versus Bailey, which that would be a hell of a match to see. I wouldn't mind seeing even a championship on the line during that. Oh, new location.
Yeah, I don't need to be in front of the TV anymore. So,
but yeah, think there's anything to this Roxanne Bailey thing, and that they're just planting the seeds for a call-up program right away, and put a rocket on her?
I definitely feel like Roxanne is in the Rumble. She has a moment with Bailey, and they feud until Mania. Like Gilmar said, I can definitely see them having that Mania.
Yeah, I mean, I could see them, like, let's just say they have the interaction at the Rumble. They have a match at some point, maybe on SmackDown, you know, that leads.
She had a pretty dominant NXT title reign. I feel like, you know, there have been men in NXT who've come up and done less and gotten pushed. So,
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen a talent called up around Rumble time and then hot-shotted into an angle. And it's not being really hot-shotted, I would say, or catapulted, but it would be strapping a rocket to her back and seeing if she can hang in the big moments. Because every big moment put in front of Roxanne so far, she's knocked out the park as a heel or a face. And I really think she's found her flow as a heel, and I would love to see more heel Bailey.
Oh, definitely.
And see where that goes.
I mean, I'm always down for a Hugger Bailey return too, but, you know, I'll take heel Bailey.
I never want to see Hugger Bailey again unless it's a one-off. Just because I think she's grown so far past that. Her heel run during the Thunderdome era was absolutely great until she got injured. And even then, with injury, she kept that going. You know, there's definitely something there to be said. If they were to catapult Roxanne, she's been more than ready to leave NXT for the past year. And they kept her there to develop a heel character that has now worked for her. I would even go as far to say that it's a possibility, if they wanted to, they could call her and Cora up together as a tag team.
I'd be all about that.
I don't think Cora's ready personally, but that's more due to her injuries and her not getting the time to actually develop fully into the character.
Right.
You know, Cora in ring is just fine.
Oh yeah, she looks good.
But that would be the person I would have with her as backup, and you could even still keep her in NXT because the way it looks now, like with Metaphor, right? Like those women, 100%. To belong on the main roster at some point. I would love to see Lash Legend get a singles run at some point. But right now, her and Jakara Jackson are great as a tag team. And they're going to really elevate that division, given the chance. for the tag team. I guess now that we've talked about that, it is time to talk some SmackDown.
Skipping over AEW.
Yeah, was in San Diego this week, so that brought Ray Jr. out. Talking about being from San Diego, he talks about him winning the 2006 Royal Rumble in memory of Eddie. So, that in itself, he has now declared for the Royal Rumble as well. Just another Hall of Fame guy who could potentially win this thing, who's half the size of everybody else. Who gets interrupted by KO. KO says he respected him. You know what? Real quick, because we will talk about the match after we get through the whole promo thing. But, the idea that somebody always has to win in their hometown. Let's just put this in the way to put it is. How many times did something good ever happen to good old JR in Oklahoma? If JR was at the announce table and they were in Oklahoma, you automatically knew something bad was happening to JR that night at some point. But yeah, we get. Yes, also, I mean, Drew got. Yeah, but it's Drew, His character just talks so much crap that it just brings people out the woodworks. But that was also the idea of them continuing the storyline, because Punk also cost him the championship after winning it at WrestleMania. So that was just a way to keep those two somehow intertwined with each other. But yeah, KO interrupts Ray, starts talking about his accomplishment of main eventing WrestleMania with Stone Cold, which he did, winning the tag team titles with former best friend Sami Zayn. So that's now been mentioned on TV. KO's no longer friends with Sami again. Boy, let's say that none of us saw that coming. All right, we're just going to say that. Because their history is they're best friends, then they're not best friends, then they're best friends, then they're not best friends. And we get kind of what was going to be a cool moment. KO's like, hey, Ray, if you win the Rumble, I'd be honored if you pick me since I'm the WWE. Obviously, KO's not the champion yet. It could happen. And we get set up for later in the night. Rey Mysterio and KO after they kind of start fighting. And they put on a great match. I do believe that was that was the match before the main event. Their match was good. Anything KO and Rey is usually pretty solid in the ring, to be perfectly honest. But I really thought that KO was going to hit that pile driver on Rey. I'm just picturing when he's going for it. Like, where's Dominic in the crowd when we need him just cheering on KO and screaming, do it? Like that, because all of a sudden now we get crossover with people in the crowd. Like, oh, we got to be at the show in the crowd to see it. You could just watch it in a monitor in the back, too, and be just as good. And not be shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of marks. Oh, wait, I said it. It has to happen. Where is it? Hey, oh no, they're not up there. Up there they are. We will go with this one, because why not? Bunch of marks.
That, of course, is the Backseat Boys, JP and Tommy Grayson.
Current SPO and JCW tag team champions. But yeah, so what did you think of the whole KO and Rey Mysterio thing?
I was working, man. I didn't get SmackDown.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You didn't really get to see much of SmackDown this week, if anything.
I saw some clips. That's about all, but that was later in the show.
let's see. We'll do a quick run through of that, and then you know what? Because it's after 6 now. We have TNA Genesis. Well, NXT Genesis. I'm not quite sure because they added the NXT logo to their graphic for it. But let's see. Where was it? Okay. We get the backstage, which I talked about earlier, the backstage segment with Bianca and Naomi, which, like I haven't noted that, like, asking the question, is Naomi the one that did it? I don't know. I might be leaning toward both of them now. Because I don't think WWE's ready to pull the heel trigger on Jade yet. But I think they're ready to pull it on Bianca and let Jade have that spot as that baby face.
Yeah, I can see them going that route.
And yes, I did clap because I read that. Like I just saw the message pop up, my eyes went right to it. But yeah, so other happenings. Then after that backstage moment, they had a match with Nia Jax and Candice LeRae. Obviously, they win that match. Nothing really special there per se. Another match which I was actually looking forward to, and I was disappointed we actually didn't get a winner, was Jimmy Uso versus Carmelo Hayes. Which I'm pretty sure, which is, I guess, a disqualification or a no decision. Because Jacob and Fatu and Tama Tonga come out, attack Jimmy, and then Mello gets up, hey, good job, guys. Let's kick his ass some more. And then they take him out too. And then we get Solo coming out. Boy, we go to commercial, come back from commercial, Solo's in the ring. It looked like he was trying to speak. And that crowd was giving him Dominic heat. I think that's the best way to call it right now, right? That Dom heat. Well, Mello's missed a lot recently, enough for me to build a clubhouse out of those bricks.
So am I just told it's not X-Pac heat anymore? It's Mellow heat or Dominic heat now?
But yeah, so Solo trying to speak, just gets tired of trying, drops the mic, and leaves through the crowd. And I thought that was interesting that he left through the crowd instead of just back up the ramp, because that's not usually how that goes, right? But whatever. A little change things never hurts. I don't think Mello joins. I think that when Trick gets called up, we get a Mello Trick reunion. Personally.
I'd rather see him keep them separated.
You know what, though? I think that they could reunite and still be separate. Like, they could be two singles guys together, not necessarily as a tag team, but
like Johnny and Ciampa, like keep them completely separate until you're ready to pull the trigger on that
reunion. Wait, never mind. He missed on Friday enough to build his own condominium complex. Poor Mello. At least he'll have a roof over his head that he built himself. But yeah, so Jacob gets on the mic, adds some choice words, says he's tired of all the hate. He doesn't care if the fans cheer or boom. It's because they don't get them or whatever. Oh no, we know what you are. You're a bunch of wild animals that have been released in the zoo, terrorizing the people coming to see you. All right. Eventually we have LA Knight coming out, which randomly brings out Braun Strowman. And which did create a moment, though. We get him and Jacob Fatu having a stare off with each other, which I'm pretty sure is going to lead to them having, if it hasn't been booked already or announced, a Saturday night's main event match, Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu, which at this point I'm here for. Because Jake, they need to start doing something with Jacob. Like, even to the point I could see him in a solo feud at some point, which I think would be the general direction they go. And it's just them working to get there now.
Yeah.
I was just to be getting to that next. I have a couple things here to get to that. We had the Motor City Machine Guns defeat Lars Garza after a bot. Well, I don't like to use the word botch, but they messed up in trying to help Los Garza win, and the Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY coming up at next week. Oh no, Pretty Deadly versus the Motor City Machine Guns next week. But Motor City Machine Guns are now the number one contenders. Do you think they get the titles back eventually in this match?
That's one I can see going either way.
It's a match I'm looking forward to now. Now that we have definitive heel and face sides, definitely looking forward to that.
It depends on how long they're extending this feud.
Yeah. But then one other thing to cover before I get to everything else. We had Piper Niven defeat Fab B. Interesting that they're shooing her in now. They're getting her some ring time. I'm nowhere's invested anywhere's near Fab B, but I think that's because she hasn't really been given the chance to shine, so
B-Fab.
Whatever. I just Fab B. See, look, that's how invested I am, all right? Very little to none.
No, I'm fine. Like, I love, seeing people like her get in the ring once in a while. Remind us that they're active competitors.
Yes. And then, before we talk about the Ginger Danger, yes. Tiffany Stratton and Bayley for the women's title. Tiffany Stratton retains, but Bayley went out there, did what she should have done. Had a great match. Made Tiffany Stratton look great. It would have been a big shock to see the title change hands twice within a 7-day period.
Yeah.
And that would have really killed Tiffy's steam and momentum that she's built up since getting 0 reactions with her debut and her call up to now actually being over, which is a testament to her and every talent, I think, or anybody who wants to be at that level in wrestling should really look at that. Like she went from being a top name in NXT and getting reactions to coming to the main roster and not getting a single reaction for the first month, maybe. Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, she had to keep fixing her gear a lot during that match, to say the least.
I've noticed that with certain, like Rhea, that always used to happen to Rhea. Like every match, I would notice it would happen to Rhea. Like there's something just the way they're built,
But we do have also announced on SmackDown this week, which was an ongoing story through the show, was Nick Aldis trying to get KO and Cody to sign this special contract for their match. It was very interesting because he tries to get Cody to sign first. Oh, I'm not going to sign it till KO signs it. He gets the KO. Oh, KO's not signing it till Cody signs it. Okay. So after that match, after the KO Ray Jr. match, and he tried to pile drive Ray Jr., Cody comes out, makes the save, and we get the or at some point, maybe it was before that, we get the announcement with Nick Aldis saying that, hey, we're in San Antonio for Saturday night's main event. So, we're going to call in Shawn Michaels to moderate this and get both you guys to sign this contract. Now, if anybody knows me, I'm a huge Shawn Michaels mark. Always have been since the Rockers. And I'm looking forward to this. I think that's a good opportunity, parade Shawn out in front of the main roster crowd. and it's a pretty big moment because in reality, this Cody KO match could go either way.
Yeah.
It really can. And I think that's been another thing that's been kind of a detriment to the title run is we knew in most of the other matches he was retaining. Right? And now with this KO thing, it's like, could they finally pull the trigger? KO deserves to be a champion. I'll stand on that.
Yeah. I just feel like they're not going to do it yet.
And then, boy, oh boy, something we have talked about the last couple weeks, bringing her name up, we finally get a vignette with Charlotte Flair.
Wonderful.
What was interesting with that was, I think it was earlier that day, and they mentioned it, that she posted this Instagram video. And the video she posted was like, it was Charlotte, the wrestler, going up against who she really is. Because she mentions her name as Ashley in it, And it was very interesting. I'm looking forward to what they do with her when she returns. At this point, I think she'll be the one in the title picture with Tiffy going into WrestleMania. Whether either of them has the championship or not, I expect Tiffy to have the championship. But that should be a really fun thing to see develop if that's the route they go. Let's see what we got going on in chat here. I have a title belt too. All right. That doesn't make me the WWE champion.
Hello, Amanda.
Like, here we go. Look, am I the WWE champion now, too? So could I just get involved in the ladder match as well?
Well,
because I'm the champ.
One of the current valid championships. It's not the WWE championship. It's not the Winged Eagle championship. It's not one of the valid championships.
Yeah, but the belt that KO's parading around was before this one, so his is even older.
No, that's legit. He's legit. He's the Winged Eagle champion.
So all I'm saying is, I have a WWE championship belt. I also have a WWE Undisputed championship belt. So all I'm saying is, I got both of them beat. I already have both titles. So should I be in the ladder match too? Just because I stole just because I have a replica championship?
No, that's different. You paid money for.
KO's essentially walking around claiming to be champ with a replica championship. Have I defended my belt? How can KO defend a belt that is a replica? Same as me, and that is my point. KO is not the champion. KO might be right about certain things, but he's been a real a-hole about how he's gone through it. And he's gone about it. He had no reason to take out Randy. He really had no reason to. He's mad because people tag team with Roman. Oh, too bad. That's how I really feel about that. That he's being a martyr for himself, regardless if he's right or not. And that's what it is. But I am looking forward to the way Saturday night's main event is shaping up at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have 4 good matches on it, And, hey, is KO right, though? As I've said about when this whole thing started with the idea of Cody teaming with Roman. Cody is a face. He is a fighting champion. Solo challenged both him and Roman. Your top champion, your top face can't say no, regardless of who the team is. That's just what it is. I've been a KO fan since his Ring of Honor days.
Yeah.
So You know, like if you really like his heel run stuff, you should go back and look up old clips of him and Sammy when Sammy was El Generico in Ring of Honor. A lot of those Ring of Honor matches were very fun matches.
Yeah.
But since we kind of touched on AEW, let me go through the notes real quick. What did you think of Kenny Omega's return and his match with Brian Cage?
I think I was like half paying attention when that was on. I definitely watched AEW, but I video.
No. So was I, because I was in the middle of working on a project, as you know about. I'm not revealing too much about that. It's not my place to reveal, but I was in the middle of something, and also conducting business for our show.
Right.
Hey. Nobody's a Cody Crybaby here. Dave LaGreca's on Busted Open. This is BJ and DG Talk Wrestling. All right.
And I want to see heel Cody. I want to
there
see
ain't no
lose
pink Victoria's Secret robes. But yeah, so other things we kind of talked about MJF and Jarrett. We touched on that.
Get it, man. Go.
Oh yeah, you definitely should watch that. I thought the Kenny Omega Brian Cage match was good, because I did get to see it. Let's not get that wrong, But I was just busy doing other stuff too, so it was more me looking at my computer screen, looking over at the TV.
It's how AEW is not when I watch Raw, when I watch SmackDown, when I watch NXT, I'm not doing something else. I'm focused. When I watch AEW, it's oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not just that. Even when I'm watching anything, as you've seen and a couple other people have, I've been doing a lot of editing work and stuff like that. So I typically, while I'm watching wrestling and there's not something I necessarily need to be staring at, I'll be looking over here, doing other stuff too. But yeah, let's see. What else do we have? Hook and Christian ended in a DQ, which brought back the return of Samoa Joe.
Yes, that's right. Thank God. I love Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers.
Yes, and that's another person, Ring of Honor days.
Right. Oh yeah.
I think was it Brian, Joe, and KO triple threat match for the Ring of Honor title, 2005-ish.
No, you're thinking of AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and Chris Daniels in TNA.
No, but I think those three could have had a combination of a match too at some point.
They did. I don't know, but that was the big one that everyone.
Yeah. But what I said sounds like a match that happened, not something I just fever dreamed.
No, it could have happened. I don't know. I didn't get Ring of Honor on television until 2010.
And then the women's Casino Gauntlet match, which I thought was really good. We saw the AEW actual debut, not just on Dark or something like that. Megan Bayne. The music hit. I looked over. I'm like, oh, that's Megan Bayne.
And instilled a little fear in everybody.
Yeah, everybody kind of stopped and was like, ooh, interesting.
Meanwhile, I'm like, nope, never heard of her.
You've watched GCW before. She does a lot of that GCW stuff, man. She's heavily featured on there, actually.
Okay.
So if you went back and looked a little bit, she's the one that comes out the whole crown thing and everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. One of the best.
But yeah, the women's Casino Gauntlet, we talked about it a bit last week. I said the most makes sense answer is Toni Storm wins.
Right.
Which she does. We finally get the rematch from All In at Grand Slam, which, boy, Grand Slam's that show's, I think, going to end up airing at midnight or something here. It's going to be somewhat of a 20+ hour delay because the NBA All-Star game. If AEW was smart, hey, look, it's going to air on TV at this time, but on Max, who we have a streaming deal with, we will be
Right.
airing it at its normal time.
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah, like that gauntlet match was one of the shorter ones. But, congratulations to Tony Storm for winning the first ever women's gauntlet match, casino gauntlet. I'm really looking forward to the match with Mariah May because it'll bring whatever this story is full circle. And I really hope for the reveal that when she comes out for the match or right before it, that she reveals that she's still been timeless Tony Storm this entire time, playing rocker Tony Storm, because not to be right, but it would just be amazing. And I think everybody would just eat it up.
You know what we need to see to make this all really work is like maybe some kind of vignette or something from Timeless Tony Storm.
Yeah, even better. You remember back when 96, 97, when we had that Monday Night Raw with Triple H for like a no DQ match, and it was supposed to be against Mankind. And we get a Titantron promo, and it's Mankind talking, and then it's Stu Love comes on the screen, right? And then we get Cactus Jack coming out onto the screen, and then he comes out as Cactus Jack. What if they did something where it was a
Side by
promo
side.
thing? Yes, like you filmed half of it in black and white as Timeless Tony, and then the other one, it's the two faces of Tony.
I definitely see them doing something like that in the future.
Like, I think Tony Storm has been one of the shining stars of
Like,
AEW since her Timeless Tony Storm gimmick started.
You know?
It's absolutely amazing because I always was a fan of her, but I always also said I always thought she didn't have personality. Well, Billy Starks needs to get. Isn't she injured right now? Or she's been written out the whole Athena thing, something like that. I think she got it. I think I saw she's injured now. Mox obviously retained against Hobbs, which was an okay match, but there wasn't much to talk about from Dynamite. Collision last night. Hangman Adam Page beats Christopher Daniels, and it looks like Christopher Daniels is being written off, which makes sense.
One of the great.
Yes. Hurt Syndicate are going to put out a challenge for the tag team championships.
Christopher Daniels, who was almost the higher power, except he was a little too small.
Yeah, Vince did. Yeah, and Vince nixed it last minute.
Dude, he got one look. Wow, what is this guy? 180 pounds.
I think the other thing, real quick, that I want to touch on real quick, the splitting up of the Acclaimed. Boy, I know we've been talking about it. Yes.
That's not pulling the Holyfield.
Mox needed to come up with a new way to get the bleed. That's all. that was what had to be one. But yeah, so Max Caster did not say a lot of nice things. He talked about Billy Gunn's past in tag teams, how they all split up, that even his son split from him. Bowens wasn't necessarily nice to Max neither, but the way Max has been acting lately, that Bowens saying, "Oh yeah, I stuck up for you in the locker room. I told these people that you were not really like this. You're my best friend. Like, I have your back." But all this eventually leads to, but in the end, Bowens was forced to choose between Max or Daddy Ass. He chose Daddy Ass. Where do you see them going from here now?
I don't know. It's a tough one. Are they going to?
There's definitely going to be a match, right?
Oh yeah, but I mean, like, how long will it continue? I don't think it'll just be a one-off and then go your separate way kind of thing.
No, I would say it's going to be like a temporary one-off where the roads will continuously cross.
And then they'll make their way back to it eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's going to be a long, like as Steven said in chat, it's going to be a long feud, but it's not going to be in your face long.
Yeah, I feel like it won't be an every week, like. Yeah,
Yeah.
if the locker room is for being
So
there.
now that it's been brought up, I feel like I've talked about all the bright spots. Outside, the other thing is Julia Hart versus Harley Cameron from Collision. I really enjoyed the match. Harley Cameron, I hope eventually gets out that they start eventually booking her to win, because you can see since she debuted in the Johnny TV segments or whatever, how far she has come in a short time. Even to the point that when Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling had their first show with Scott D'Amore, and they had the backstage interview with her, I think it was Jinder and Bully, something like that, and she did Bully's whole shtick. And then the next day, like on Busted Open, Bully's like, it was her idea. And I was like, all right, go ahead, do it. And he's like, he put her over to the moon. But yes. Yes, I believe in Joe Hendry, which will bring us to our final topic of the day. Because the TNA pre-show will be starting in about 10 minutes. So I would like to talk about tonight's TNA Genesis pay-per-view, especially because it could have NXT implications as well.
Could even have Royal Rumble implications.
Well, we've speculated on that. We could get the Jordan Grace debut in WWE and a Masha Slamovich appearance. I'm hoping for a TNA champion appearance, regardless of who it is. If you know me, I'm hoping it's Joe Hendry.
Of course.
But let's start with, let me scroll down. All right. On the pre-show, Frankie Kazarian and Leon Slater. Leon Slater's it's an up-and-comer in TNA. He's showing he can hang there. Frankie has his cash-in trophy thing or whatever. He, just real quick on that note, Cameron Grimes got done really dirty because he told he wasn't going to be part of the releases and that there were storylines planned for him. And they cut him the next day after telling him that.
But Trevor Lee was 100% better than Cameron Grimes in every way, in every federation he's been in. Like, he was awful in not awful, but like, they didn't know what to do with him.
Yeah, he was great in NXT.
They didn't know how to use. No, I feel like
he was good in NXT, but when they called him up to the main roster, they had nothing for him because it was Vince.
That whole angle with Eli Drake and the $1 Million Man was just goofy. I hated it.
I mean, the Cameron Grimes character was a goofy character to begin with.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's the idea. Like, I watched the match in TNA right after the Global Force thing happened. And, like, he's got huge athletic ability. This was, like, when he was way younger. This is, like, 10 years ago. Huge athletic ability, but he was hilarious. Like, he would, like yell in the ring, like, oh, no! And, like...
But, yeah,
I can't even...
Yeah.
Can't even remember. But, yeah, like, I feel like they just never really used him to his fullest potential.
Yeah, I agree with that. I felt like we started getting previews of it in NXT, and he built up his momentum, and it was kind of the right time to call him up, but Vince had no plan for him because Vince was just butchering NXT because he was mad that they lost those couple months to AEW, and because we know what happens from there. 2.0, all that stuff, and
remind me of Black.
Who you got? Frankie Kazarian or Leon Slater?
I feel like Kazarian's just there to put the young guy over.
I see. So I agree, but at the same time, it kind of becomes a thing because he has that cash-in thing. So I think which we'll talk about. I think I see him being involved in the main event somehow.
Oh well, all right.
I think Frankie Kazarian wins in very heel fashion and cheats to win, but Leon Slater dominates the match.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. Something to where, because he'll look good in the match, but Frankie having the whole trophy, call your shot, he's going to cheat to win because that's what he's been doing. And it just makes sense. And then the system of Brian Myers and Steve Macklin versus Eddie Edwards versus Steve Macklin and Eric Young. How do you feel about that match?
I haven't watched TNA in so long.
TNA's doing really good stuff. Obviously,
I have no idea what anybody's gimmick is right now. It's just
the system's kind of, they're a group of guys put together. It's Brian Myers, Moose, Macklin, formerly in WWE, Fandango, and then Alicia Edwards.
Okay.
Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, former tag team champions. I believe 2-time champions now. I could be wrong on that, but I do believe they're 2-time tag team champions. I can see the system winning this. I don't really see Eric Young and Steve Macklin winning it because I think Eric Young and Steve Macklin go into their own program at some point. But, the system have a lot to prove. They're trying to get back to the tag team titles.
Got you.
And then a match that I know for a fact Heel Mark is looking forward to is Spitfire defending the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championships against By Elegance, which is formerly Dana Brooke and what's her name? Or is this her name? But I can see that match going either way. Dana Brooke, since becoming Ash by Elegance, has been doing really solid work in Ring of Honor. Or TNA. I said Ring of Honor. Whoops. And it would be interesting to see her finally get gold on a major show. Do you not believe in Joe Hendry? Yeah, man, what's up with that?
And then when I get home, I have to quickly edit a video and then go to bed because I have to work by that point in like 10 hours. So, yeah, so I don't, and then by that point, usually if I don't watch it when it airs, I won't watch it. So going back, like I don't usually do that, and then the weekend is happening.
Yeah, so then we also have Moose defending the X Division Championship against Ace Austin, who's trying to get the win essentially for Chris Bay, his tag team partner, who was injured horrifically. We might not ever see him again. I hope that's not the case because Chris Bay is a great competitor in that ring. Personally, I could see Ace Austin winning, but I see Moose retaining. Because this the whole idea right now that, hey, he loses now and he could turn around and chase for it again. I think we would see that match again because we also see the debut, I believe, of a new X Division Championship tonight. Yes, I do have this game on right now. I'm hoping the Bills win personally.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter who wins because they're just going to lose in 3 weeks.
You shut your mouth, sir. I don't think Moose will need shenanigans to win. I think he could straight up win it. But I do pick Moose to win and retain. He just won the title. I don't think there's any reason to hot shot it yet. I would love to see Moose as another one of those talents maybe appear in a Rumble or over in TNA or NXT at one point. And then the next match, which this is a match I'm looking forward to because I've always been a fan of this type of gimmick match, and that's Josh Alexander versus Mike Santana in an I Quit match. And this feud has really been going hard recently. They're doing a really good job with it. Mike Santana, I think, does win it in the end. It's not the first time a wild card. It wouldn't be the first time the 6th seed made it.
Moose retains with shenanigans, and then Obafemi shows up for stare down.
Who does Obafemi have the showdown with? Moose? That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Like that would definitely be a moment.
Oh yeah.
But I think Mike Santana wins the I Quit match against Josh Alexander. I know there's a lot of rumors, as we've talked about in the past, about the possibility of Josh Alexander also leaving. Well, if you pass out, you can't say I quit in an I Quit match. Passing, you have to quit. That has been made clear, I think, in any company I've ever seen an I Quit match in, that they've never stopped the match for somebody passing out. You have to verbally actually say I quit. But I think that there's a 50-50 chance that Josh Alexander might have re-signed with TNA, and they just haven't announced it yet because TNA is really good at keeping things under wraps. And he's one of the ones, because I look at him like they just formed a stable around him. They've built something around him. Why would you let him walk? Just looking at it from that perspective. Different time, and you had a special referee at that point, and that wasn't, if I remember correctly, that was a submission match, not an I Quit match. Because in a submission match, you pass out, that's fine. But yeah, when Stone Cold passed out against Bret Hart, that was a submission match. Because that's why Ken Shamrock was the special referee of it.
This man, extreme, legendary. We'll stick with those.
Was that a little loud?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just starting the pre-show with Busted Open hosting for Genesis.
So what other matches we got?
So the next match we have, which is now, this is another match I'm interested in. For the TNA World Tag Team Championship, the Hardys defend against the Rascals.
Oh, that's going to be a good match.
And the Rascals just openly challenged them, and they accepted the challenge. There's been no real beef between the teams or anything. This is just hey, who's better than who match.
Yeah,
this is another. Yeah, this is one of those ones that I see as a coin flip, because I could see the Hardys dropping the titles to them.
Could we see Wesley?
Do we really pick up back on that feud? I mean, Wesley kind of has a stable with him now. Who would be the third guy that you add to the Rascals?
Yeah, don't really know the roster well enough to.
Yeah, I mean, the third guy could be somebody from NXT as well. Like, if they're going to have that working relationship, you know. But, you know, I think the Rascals win the titles. Unless there's some type of shenanigans. Then we have the TNA Knockouts World Championship match, which is a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. Whatever that is. Javon Evans would be a good addition for a 3-on-3 style like that. I think Javon Evans would fit in with the Rascals really well in a temporary fashion to respond to that. But yeah, Masha Slamovich defending against Rosemary.
Oh, I like it.
I think Masha retains, hands down.
Same. I love Rosemary, but I think Masha retains it.
Yeah. And on the pre-show currently for TNA, they're just showing clips of Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry arriving for the show. You know, the typical B-roll footage.
Yeah.
Now this was spoken about earlier. Jordan Grace versus Tessa Blanchard in her return match to TNA. And personally, it seems like there's a lot on the line in this match as the leadership. And I say her name and she appears on my screen, Tessa Blanchard. Using that Joe Hendry magic. Now, if we're all looking at this the way we should be, Jordan Grace is probably on her way out. So it would make sense. Because this is essentially for that leadership role in the locker room. You know, like that's how they've posed the match to be. It's a very heated feud, very quick. Because there is past to it from before when Tessa left. I think Tessa Blanchard wins the match. I think it's a well-fought match, and I think we see something along the lines where Jordan is injured or something like that and actually written off.
Right.
But I think we're definitely getting there. I will be covering that in so the main event of tonight for us to talk about now, for the TNA Championship, our champion and a deserving world champion in Nick Nemeth will be defending his championship against the man that 99.5% of us all believe in, Joe Hendry. Is it time? After him being screwed out of the title in his last 3 attempts, I believe 2 of them by JBL directly. The other one was the Josh Alexander kick to the nuts. Does Joe Nemeth enter the chat? We got somebody in the chat. We got Joe Hendry. Nemeth retains. I don't think Nemeth retains. I think that now's the time. If you don't put this championship on Joe Hendry now, I think that he needs to really consider what his future in that company is. Because of the fact that how many times can you do a screwy finish and not have an outright winner? I expect to see JB
Rhodes.
I mean, I look at it like this. I expect to see JBL tonight.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I expect to see Ryan Nemeth get involved somehow. My pick is Joe Hendry to win due to Ryan Nemeth trying to interfere in the match and distracting his brother. I also think that we could see a cash-in. I think we could see Joe Hendry win, Frankie cash in, or cash in and make it a triple threat at some point. I just think it's time. Like, if you don't put the belt on Joe Hendry now, with the momentum he's built up the last year, like, then why is he in this spot? Why have you featured him in this spot for the last 6 months? It's completely pointless. And you're wasting all that momentum that he's built up. And you have the veteran in Nick Nemeth putting him over.
Yeah, I mean, why not drag it out?
There's just so much to it of how they built it up. You know, like if I saw a clean finish on Joe Hendry just once, all right, you know, at least I've seen the defeat straight up. You know, every time it's been some type of screwy finish for him. Oh, but hey, me personally, I won't cry at all. But the problem does become, where does the Joe Hendry character go from there? What I personally think really does happen, though, Nick Nemeth drops the title to Hendry, Frankie cashes in, and we put Joe Hendry back on the chase in a revenge type storyline for Frankie Kazarian stealing his moment. with the cash in, because now we've now gotten the taste of Joe Hendry, winning the title. It would have been almost akin. It's like the Dusty finish, right? Almost.
If
Or
the
like,
Mets-
imagine if we were to tweak this past WrestleMania in one way. Instead of Damian Priest cashing in on Drew McIntyre, imagine if he successfully cashed in on Cody Rhodes.
So if Nemeth retains, do you think he shows up in the Rumble?
Who, Nick? Does Nick Namath show up in the Rumble as TNA champion if he retains?
Yeah.
No.
No? But you think Joe Hendry?
All the impressions I've gotten, because he's been asked this question, and he's kind of talked about it on Busted Open. I don't see that happening. I don't think, because he has no unfinished business in WWE. He really doesn't.
He'll get a huge pop.
He'd get the pop, but it wouldn't be Dolph Ziggler, right? And I think he kind of wants to keep his distance from that, which is fine. It's his choice. Also, to the idea that, let's just say, what if Joe Hendry were to appear in the Rumble as TNA champion and Frankie was to cash in on him during the Rumble?
Oh, wow.
On WWE TV, and we see a TNA title change on WWE PLE.
By two guys who have never been under contract by WWE. Actually, no, Kazarian did do some jobber matches. But yeah, he wasn't a contracted wrestler, though.
No, yeah. He might have been, had tryout matches and stuff like that at certain points.
Yeah, I think, I know I've seen him. Most of the guys out there in AEW, appeared in, 2002 to 2005 at, under, a stupid name, looking all young. Samoa Joe did. A lot of those guys. Daniels, Kazarian, Young Bucks, Omega, I think.
Yeah. All right. So one last thing to ask tonight, and then we can wrap up here. Do you any special appearances, maybe outside of a Cora Jade or maybe a Oba Femi, appear from NXT on the TNA pay-per-view tonight?
I mean, I would think they're the most likely. Javon Evans is a possibility.
Yeah.
Cora. Yeah, I mean,
I definitely think we see Cora tonight.
Yeah. Honestly, no one else really comes to mind. Everyone else is kind of just involved with their own thing.
What about the idea of maybe a Fraxium appearance, and we kind of set up a triple threat tag team match between DIY, Fraxium, and the Hardys or the Rascals? Oh, Nikita Lyons appearance. That would be interesting and unexpected.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm kind of for that, because I think we could see some really good stuff with some of the talents over there, like a Masha Nakia match just to happen. There's some good talent there that she could work with.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And then, who I wouldn't mind seeing? Tony D'Angelo crossover.
I was thinking that. Yeah, the whole faction. Maybe take on.
What about Sean Spears? Maybe he appears in the back trying to recruit people.
I feel like this might. I would love to see an NXT versus TNA PLA.
A Worlds Collide event.
Yeah.
A lot of fans have been wanting that since all this started months ago, with the whole idea of them actually working together now and not having one-off appearances in the Royal Rumble or something. I have seen some traction to that, and I hope both companies see that.
Lexus King would be a good one too.
There is a ton of possibilities, which is why this is good for the pro wrestling landscape, and especially for TNA. That's just about what we have today. Before we go, just like to promote the upcoming event for SPO Wrestling at Harrah's in Chester, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. Let me get up the graphics here.
And this card isn't even complete, but it's OT. That's a good shot.
Yeah, the card is actually kind of complete. If you can full screen me, I guess. Gotta support the ginger. You know, as always, honoring the House of Cluck is House of Cluck. But yeah, we have this amazing card coming up February 8th for SPO Wrestling, which will be which the way it looks is going to be headlined between current JCW champion, the Chocolate Juggalo, Willie Mack, going up against the Feral Face, who is the current SPO champion, and his championship will be on the line. Also on this card, we have Pat Dynamite and Hank the Buffalo versus Ruckus and Robbie Illuminati of Blackout in a ladder match for the key to the city.
Hank the Buffalo is not a wrestler. He is the Buffalo Wild Wings mascot.
We have, as there is a TNA show tonight, we have who is the SPO Wrestling Women's Champion, current TNA star Tasha Steeles, taking on current NWA star Ruthie J. Which that looks like it's going to be an exciting match.
Oh yeah.
We have Primal Fear, who did the opening for the show for our show that we use right now, taking on Post Game. We have one half of the JCW and SPO tag team champions taking on, if you watch GCW, you will know him, Griffin McCoy.
You didn't say who. You just said one half of the tag team champions.
I thought JP Grayson. I thought I said it.
Hey, you said one half of the tag team champions will be taking on.
And I heard it in my brain. So one half of the current JCW and SPO tag team champions, JP Grayson of the Backseats, will be taking on Griffin McCoy, which if you've ever watched GCW, you will know who he is. He also wrestles for the current incarnation of CZW and plenty of other promotions. Then we have a dumpster match between Calculated Kurt Robinson, who was trained by Drew Gulak, one of his trainers, taking on one of our personal favorites, Homeless Vaughn.
Homeless Vaughn. That's going to be great. I can't wait for that one.
And then one of the matches, which I'm also looking forward to, Simon Gotch and Rick Blade taking on David McCall and Nate Wallace, the Rep. Which, if you go on my Instagram at the Danger Ginger One, I have a video I posted there, which shows how this match came about. Also, we have a huge meet and greet.
Yeah, stacked.
That will be that when the doors open. That will be going. That will include the Rep, Tasha Steeles, Willie Mack, the Patriot, Ruthie J, Ruckus, Robbie Illuminati, the Feral Face, Simon Gotch, Rick Blade. We have Big Daddy, 76er Superfan. We have Rerun cosplayer, who's I believe been on Broadway. Todd Rod. We have DJ Khalil. We have Philly hip hop legend from Tough Crew, I believe, Tone Love. It's shaping up to be a fantastic show that I can't wait to be there.
Well, you forgot about one of the matches that is announced.
What match did I forget there, sir?
Velcro.
Oh, I didn't have that graphic. I couldn't find that one quick enough. But yes, he also has a match as well.
Against former WWE superstar James Ellsworth.
Yes. Yes.
Ellsworth in the house. He's beaten AJ Styles 3 times.
Oh, so currently going on the pre-show on TNA, we have Jake something taking on Ashanti from NXT.
Oh, no way. Okay. Is Carmen there?
I do believe that's him. Yeah, I think that is.
Nice. All right.
Yes, they just said Ashanti the Adonis.
Watch, that's the only time anyone will appear on the whole thing.
All right, let me get these graphics down. And if you live in the Philadelphia, New Jersey area, you can get your tickets for that show at spowrestling.com. We will have more about the show actually in the upcoming weeks leading up to it. There is some news to come out, which hopefully next week I can fully confirm. And because I like to have everything fully set in stone before I do announce it.
Don't give anyone anything to speculate about. Tell them facts.
I'm Ginger. There's a fact. Just real quick, other names that were mentioned to appear for this show, which one of them was not Ashanti the Adonis. Andre Chase, which would be very interesting. I wouldn't mind that. Dia Hale, I would like to see that. I think she's somebody who could get called up soon. The pre-show is free, currently going on YouTube on the TNA Wrestling page. Just to throw that out there. But yes, since there is football going, we have a pay-per-view getting ready to start soon. I think it's about time we let you guys go so you can go enjoy some wrestling and not just hear two marks talk about it for 2.5 to 3 hours.
Yeah, we've taken up enough of your time.
You know, for me, I am Danger Ginger. This is, if I can click it, Lego Danger Ginger. We have BJ.
And,
BJ drinks beer. You know, and Iron Sheik has now made an appearance. God help us. And for those who aren't able to watch it, Jake something defeated Ashanti the Adonis
already
in the pre-show match. So everybody stay warm out there. If you're anywhere where it's snowing, if you're anywhere in California where there's fires, stay cool and get away from the fire. Everybody stay safe out there. Whenever you're ready, you can hit that outro if you want to, you know, however we're doing this.
Yeah, man.
Old Gingers only.
Yeah, everything he said. And everybody be back 5 o'clock next week for another episode of BJ and DG Talk Wrestling. That's all we've got for this time. Until next time. Cheers.
Yeah! It's your boy Gabriel Hodder, Matthew Oman. We are all fight, no fight, primal fear. And you're watching BJ and DG Talk Wrestling. Yeah!